Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Jason with the Board Game Mechanics, and today we're going to take a look at a game called Fresco, the card game. Ignore the word dice, wherever it is on this box. Fresco the card game is a game plays 2 to 4 players, published by Queen Games, designed by Marco Ruskowski and Marcel Subelbeck. I probably said that incorrectly, and I believe these are the same designers that did Fresco. I should have looked that up. I didn't. I apologize. Someone will comment, yell at me, have at it. I do this channel for fun. But in this game, what you're doing is it's basically a card game version of the game. Well, that's obvious. It's basically taking the theme of Fresco and it's stripping it down to card conversion and hand management. You're trying to get certain cards in your hand that have colors on them to paint certain frescoes that need certain colors. That's the gist of the game. You're going to draw a card, you're going to take one of these possible 3 actions, and then once somebody has painted 6 fresco pieces or full frescoes in the round, score points, done. If you want to see how that works, you can click the link in the video description, and I'll play through, I don't know, I think somebody gets to 2 frescoes, so a third of the way through in a 2-player game. Otherwise, stick around here, and we'll take a look at the components. Alright, so here are the components for Fresco, the card game. So let's take a look at the rulebook first. So I did the dice game earlier, but this rulebook is kind of interesting. It's half card game, tells you how to play pretty nicely, no issues. And then when you get halfway through, then it's the dice game, so you have to flip the book over, and there you go. So I didn't really talk about this in the dice game, but I wanted to show this off there, so there you go. Components are pretty simple. It's just a bunch of cards. You got the market deck with a bunch of like different cards and conversions. These are multi-use cards, which are pretty neat. You can spin them and do all kinds of things with them. You know, this is either orange or green. Those are all orange. There's some green, purple, so on and so forth. They're good quality, not linen finished, but pretty nice. They're easy to see them apart. You're painting the fresco. That kind of gets lost in the theme. The theme is barely there, but it's pretty nice. The board is not necessary, but it keeps everything together. These tokens are pretty neat, simple, easy to read, easy to see. No issue there. No player board, none of that. These tokens, so kind of a mixed bag here. I like most of these, but these are awful, and I just want to eject these from the game because you ask somebody for a color that to give to you is stupid. These are much more helpful than that, and I just feel like when 3 of those are out on that space over there, someone takes it because they have to, and it just feels like a waste. So aside from that component, game mechanism, which I'll talk about later, I like everything else that this game has to offer from a component perspective for a card game. So there you go. So those are the components for Fresco the card game. Let's talk about what we think about the game. Alright, so Fresco the card game is based on the Big Brother game Fresco, and if you've watched my dice game version or video, this is not as good as that in my opinion. So it does some interesting things. It takes these cards. So I'll show you, I showed a little card earlier, but it takes these cards and you're going to use them in a couple ways. So you can either use them to spin to get other cards in your hand, kind of like doing some hand conversion, or you can use them for the paints. Some of them, however, though, you can even mix together, just like in Fresco when you're mixing paints. So I have a red and a blue, I make purple. There you go, see? So some interesting stuff. You're getting these paints, you're trying to mix them, you're trying to trade them in for other colors, and you're trying to paint frescoes, keeping in mind what the bishop likes, all that kind of stuff, to be the first player to get to 6 and score the most points. That's it. It's a pretty simple game. There's some ambiguity in the rules a little bit in this that I don't love, but maybe it's just me. I feel like the rule book could maybe have a little bit more wording clarification. I don't really know. But one thing I do hate about this, and it really makes me like it less than the dice game, is this tile. I talked about it a little bit in the component overview, but this is, you're going to ask, you're doing like Go Fish effectively in this card game about painting fresco. You're going to ask somebody for a card, a color card. If they have it, they have to give it to you. I hate that because all these other ones are so much better. This one gives you a point at the end of the game, or you can use it as a green. This one lets you swap cards out and paint a fresco. Normally you could do one of those actions on your turn. This lets you do both. And then you got this one. I'm going to ask you for a color. You may not have it, so I've basically just wasted this tile that I got as a bonus. Stupid. Next time I play those 2 players, I'm taking those tiles out because they're worthless and I hate them. So that's my only complaint across this. Really is the card play is interesting. I wish there's a little more to it, but I hate that tile. So yeah, it's I loathe it. But overall, I like the card game. Dice game's better. Go watch that video and you can see what I think about that. But it's an interesting take on it. You get to mix some paints, which is a little bit interesting. You get to use 2 cards instead of 1, but since you're using 2 cards instead of 1, you get that bishop to help you score more points. Interesting. I feel like you're in this deck too much and you're not really getting into the other color decks, which is kind of a bummer. But aside from that, it's interesting. 2 games, 1 box. I mean, there's decent games, so 2 decent games for the price of 1, and they were on sale. There you go. So that is Fresco, the dice game, or the card game. I already did the dice game. From Queen Games, I'm Jason with the Board Game Mechanics, and as always, keep gaming.